back to the well-meaning skeptic. Well, a couple days ago, I watched the Odyssey, and I'm gonna review it now. I think it can be assumed that spoilers are ahead, but I mean, if that needs to be said, then I mean, I don't know. Come on, what are we doing here? But I mean, yeah, it's fair. It's fair for those that yeah, there's gonna be spoilers. So yeah. All right, now that that's out of the way, I think it's usually a good idea. I feel like, right? It's a good general rule of thumb to start with the positives. So here's the thing. Overall, I liked it. I think I'd probably say it's my least favorite Christopher Nolan movie, unfortunately. That being said, I mean, it's a pretty high bar. Some of his movies are some of my just top favorite movies of all time. Yeah, I don't know. I think really one of the biggest things for me, I guess, coming out of it almost like after the fact, reflecting, is just kind of like disappointment at the fact that it could have been one of my absolute all-time favorites, and it just kind of just missed. I managed to stick the landing at the end. There was a looseness to it. It wasn't tight. But to get more into specifics of what I mean. So overall, I liked it. I was, watching it the whole way through. I wasn't, checking my phone. Not that, because I mean, only heathens and swine check their phones during a movie in a movie theater. But I wasn't doing any of that. I wasn't kind of finding myself daydreaming or that kind of thing. There were things that kind of took me out of it and broke the immersion, but not enough for me to kind of just like walk out or just honestly start like doing something else. Especially once Odysseus' story really started to get going, I really found myself rooting for him, rooting for his crew, knowing what's going to happen, but still wishing that they could all make it back home. That's all they all wanted, They just wanted to go back home. The main beats of the Odyssey story that like are kind of integral, kind of like the well-known, essential stuff to hit, I felt like was done very well. Of course, the Cyclops, Circe, like all the kind of like big island, they show up to a new place and then catastrophe happens, right? They have to deal with it, usually run away. Kind of very almost Python-esque at times. But that's the Odyssey. That's the story of the Odyssey, right? Really liked the Cyclops, even though they kind of like deviated a little bit with the not mentioning the Odysseus saying that his name is nobody, and then confusing the other Cyclops, and then getting away with it and being all tricky and sneaky with Polyphemus and messing with his head. The choice of that they decided to go, I still think was cool. It's kind of maybe kept the Cyclops a little creepier instead of being a bit more of like, not like a bumbling oaf, but like keeping him almost like where you don't really hear him talk all that much, kind of made it like creepier. How they did it, like this mix, it did almost feel like there was a guy in this morph suit almost at one point. It was a very creepy morph suit. The music, you almost kind of feel a little pity for the Cyclops, which I think you might ultimately supposed to feel almost like a bit of pity for the Cyclops, but of course then he's eating people and it's complicated. You feel this way and that way at the same time. But yeah, I thought the Cyclops, that whole Cyclops bit was very, I was in it, Circe. The whole pig transformation thing was, I'm always interested to see kind of how that's going to be done, how portrayed. It's a hard thing to do, I think, for it to not be cheesy or to like how do you pull that off? And her like just molding, literally like pulling their faces and like shaping them all kind of. It was very creepy and intense and weird, and I liked it. The whole thing, I liked the whole bit with Circe. I think it is kind of a little different from the books. Apparently he sleeps with Circe. I forgot about that. Which is like, sleeping with the pig witch. But anyway, overall, I like the person that played Circe. I like the whole bit where they get there and it's like, oh, I know what's gonna happen once he shoots the guy. I thought it was a deer, but it was just a naked guy. And then all the other creatures are like, these are probably transformed people. It's just, yeah, it's creepy. And I'm always so relieved when they get out of there. Boom. Actually, I liked the dealing with, was it eating the Apollo's cows, the sacred cows, and then kind of being cursed for that whole Hades scene, going to the underworld. I like underworld stuff. Anytime there's underworld stuff in any movie, just, yeah, I dig it. It always makes for interesting, I don't know, stuff, essential images, the stuff you don't see every day. It's good. And the sacrifice, and it brings them all up from the earth. The Calypso stuff was good. I liked how, again, like the lotus flower is kind of this way of like, it's kind of seen as like, he's medicating himself from all the trauma. So it's kind of like, and he gets addicted to it. He's like, oh, I love it. And like, helps me forget. It's like, yeah, of course, like any kind of addictive substance that helps you put off having to deal with everything that you're suppressing, right? That's how you get through it. And yeah, you're surviving, you're coping, but you're not actually living. You're stuck. You're not actually, like, he's kind of stuck, right? Like, he's stuck there for 7 years and basically can't function. He has to basically forget who he is and everything about his life to kind of keep going. And yeah, at a certain point, like I guess any addiction, right? You get to the point where it's like, no, I'd rather live in reality. I'd actually rather remember and face things. And because yeah, at a certain point, even the lotus flower, there's a part of you that always just like, I don't know, there's a part of you that wants to live, that wants more, that wants truth, that wants, oh yeah, Charybdis and Scylla, classic Odyssey stuff. Overall, again, I like that. It did feel like, again, a bit rushed, and I don't even know why, because it's like, well, how long can you really get into it? The prophecy already described what's going to happen. Really, I don't know why it felt rushed to me. It really isn't kind of fair almost, because it's like they actually deal with Charybdis. They like hit, they stick their oars out hard to try and avoid it. Then they get too close to the Scylla, and that Scylla was really creepy and cool. It's like not really just like a normal snake, like like we imagine like just a snake with a bunch of heads. It was like, well, kind of like, kind of bent and kind of stony or something. It was like a stone lizard dragon thing. It was cool. And it scoops people out. You barely see it, right? It's cool. Yeah. At first, with the Telemachus Penelope story, I found it slow to get going. But as he's, traveling to Sparta to meet with Menelaus and get information about Odysseus, and there was some interesting kind of talks while they're like hunting, and the plot by the suitors to take Telemachus out. Like, I thought all that, and then that's how he meets up with Odysseus for the first time, and then he helps him out, and that was all. I liked all that stuff. Like, the action for the most part, I'm trying to think, like, the action was solid. And then of course, like, at the end, first of all, just when Odysseus actually gets back and he's in Ithaca, and you can just breathe a sigh of relief, getting his revenge on the suitors. That was all. It's one of those things where it's like hard to do wrong. I think it's hard to mess that up, because it's just, I don't know, something primordially satisfying about that series of events. I don't know. Bunch of people that have overstayed their welcome and are just the nastiest takers of people, very just ugh, slime, just slimy. It's just nice to see slimy folks like that really get their comeuppance, their just desserts. It was just a happy ending, which was nice, which yeah, it's one of those things where it's just nice to see. Well, I was gonna say, see things work out. A lot of people died. A lot of people didn't get home. A lot of people were like killed in their sleep or whatever, and a lot of people were like died in terrible, horrible ways, and ransacked cities, and a lot of betrayal and lies, but it still kind of feels like a happy ending somehow for some. You know what I mean? Like, and it's kind of, I don't know. It's complete, I guess. I don't know. There was a jump scare. I think the Scylla got me with a jump scare, so I didn't expect that. There's some good horror and spooky elements to that movie. All the main, I think I'd say, like, the important parts, I guess. They pulled it off. They stuck the landing at the end. They got me there. I made it through the 3 hours, and I heard somewhere that it was going to be an intermission, but there wasn't. I don't know. There was a lot of scuttlebutt going on with this movie. I wasn't like blown away by a lot of the acting, but I did like Circe, as I forget her name now, the actress. Shoot. Was she in The Whale? What was she in? She was in... I looked it up recently, and she was in something else, too. The actress that played Circe. I really liked... there was one other. Of course, oh yeah, Robert Pattinson. Yeah, did a... Ooh, he's a slime ball. Ooh, I just wanted to... Ooh, he just... At the end, he puts the thing in his head. Yeah. What a sleemo, that guy. The music was solid all the way through. Goranson. What a unsung hero. Is he an unsung hero? I feel like he's quite recognized now. But yeah, Goranson. It was a good score. Not doing too much of the motifs and the themes, the light motifs and all, but didn't need it, I guess. Do I go into stuff that was just like meh? Or do I just go into stuff that, like, yeah, I guess stuff that maybe could be better? On a scale of didn't really like to could have just been tweaked, could have been better. I'd say there was a fair bit of stuff that either was starting to break my immersion or just kind of took me out of it. Something either builds immersion in a movie for me or breaks immersion. And I think that's for everybody, and it's different things depending on the person, right? And the goal generally is to maintain as strong a level of immersion as possible the entire way, right? Because it's meant to be, yes, an escape, but also just meant to transport people, and let people travel along with another person's story, or really just enter a different world. And that doesn't have to be always like a fantasy world. It can just be, you know, a world that's similar to ours, but it's just you're entering into another person's fictional story, and that's just something that humans love to do. You know, when I think of often my favorite movies, they're movies that were just, for me, nothing that breaks the immersion. It just feels consistent all the way through with the rules of the story and the world and yeah, everything. It's just, it sticks to what it's established, what the movie, the ground rules, what has been established. And yeah, with the Odyssey, it just again felt just so random at times, and maybe there was thought behind it, like Agamemnon's armor. Maybe there's some kind of symbolic, metaphoric thing going on there, but for me, it did just kind of feel like he just stands out like way too. I don't know. He just looks way different from everybody else, but not in a way where it's like, well, he's the king of kings or whatever. He's the one kind of the main head honcho, so he's gonna have some bit more blinged out armor or whatever. It's like, sure, he could, maybe be a little more ornate like the other leaders and other kings that are along for the campaign, but to be so, I don't really just. Again, like I understand that readability is important in movies, especially if you're bringing a whole new audience to a type of world that they're not familiar with. And same thing with like video games. It's important for people to immediately or very quickly understand, the characters of the units or what's going on. And readability is important for lots of different things. Games, movies, I get it. But like I mentioned in the last video with Troy, I'm reminded of that movie a lot when I'm thinking of the Odyssey. I think it actually adds something to the fact that the readability isn't so great because it's the Trojans and Greeks. It kind of makes you feel like, yeah, it's like, are they really that different from each other? Why are they fighting for 10 years? It seems so arbitrary for all the reasons why they're fighting, right? And I think that's kind of an interesting point or message to be found there. So when you have such stark readability, where it's like, where the Greeks look one way, the Trojans all look very different, and yeah, I mean it definitely, I didn't like the Trojan costumes. I don't know, there was something about it that just felt like not even mass produced, because I mean you kind of have to. Well, I mean you don't have to mass produce. I mean, like Lord of the Rings, I think there was two guys working night and day just making chainmail ringlets or whatever for all the chainmail armor and stuff. So like, but there was something about the costumes that felt like they didn't seem to really like fit the people too well, and some criticisms have been lodged against like the costumes as being cheap. I don't think all the costumes look cheap, but yeah, the Trojan costumes, there was something weird and kind of mass produced and kind of ill-fitting about those in particular. I found that kind of took me out of it. The costumes were a big one for me. Like Agamemnon, for some reason, is looking like a space Greek. I don't really understand, apart from going for like an intimidation factor and maybe to really get you to feel like he's so far beyond you in terms of power and status. And I don't know, maybe that's what again, I'm trying to like, I'm trying to see what maybe they were going for, but yeah, still didn't like it. Seemed kind of why, was more just kind of the thing. A lot of it's just kind of like, why? Okay, but why? Odysseus' armor was fine. I still feel like it was kind of, yeah. There were some bland things. The ships were ill-fitting again, also for the time period. Now I wonder if they went for those kinds of ships because they knew there was going to be a lot of getting in and out, and a lot of retreating and having to hop back in real quick. It still just felt, it just kind of took me out of it. There were a lot of things, some with the language, acting, actors, sets, costumes that at times did just kind of make it a lot harder for me to really just sink in effortlessly into the world of the movie. Which is unfortunate. Again, it's just some movies just, they nail it. They just everything they do. And this one, it was just kind of felt like at times just decisions that just seemed kind of without having any thought behind it, or yeah, just kind of a weird decision that just was more for what I guess standing out, maybe to stand out in the trailer or what to get people talking, but just didn't really fit in the movie setting for me. I think it's fair to talk about some of the casting choices. That was part of the immersion breaking for me. The guy, I forget his name, the Travis, I think it's Travis something. The bard, I guess, in the movie. Again, he was barely in it, so like the movie was already long enough. Could have cut him, and the movie would have just been a little bit shorter. And he added nothing to the movie, in my opinion. So that kind of felt again, just like, are you just trying to, yeah, again, like hit a quota? Is it like a diversity quota thing, or is it just this guy has a really good agent and he's just like, get me into a big blockbuster movie, just find me anything. I don't know. It felt very shoehorned in for people that don't find clashes of like, if you're going back in time or if you're going into a fantasy thing where there's a certain race of people that are going to look a certain way. Some people don't have the immersion break when it's kind of more of a, multicultural mix of different ethnicities and races playing one culture in like a fantasy or in and that's cool. If that doesn't bother you, it doesn't bother you. But it's also fair if it does bother people. What breaks immersion is different for everybody. Because, yeah, the Greeks, maybe didn't look at racism the same way. Racism back then wasn't the same as it is today, but the Greeks also basically considered everyone that wasn't Greek a barbarian. And yeah, I don't think there'd be black suitors or black bards hanging out. A lot of the white actors, too, they also didn't really look like they fit. Like Matt Damon seemed to make sure he had very powerful sunscreen on the entire filming shoot because it didn't seem like he got any sun the entire time. Even though he spent 7 years on basically just like a barren beach where it just seemed like it was just sun hitting him all day. Because apparently, there's that movie that came out a few years ago, right? The Return, which is also, I think, just about like more like the second half of the Odyssey. Ray Fiennes plays Odysseus and seems to focus a lot on him coming back and dealing with the suitors, I think. I haven't seen it, but I'd like to. But Ray Fiennes looks like he's been cooked by the sun. He's been out adventuring and barely surviving. Matt, yeah, he's okay. He's got some scraggly beard and long gray beard and stuff. But apart from that, maybe he lost some weight by the end there. Like he was kind of skinnier. But I don't know. It did feel kind of a bit like it's a Hollywood movie. They gotta always still look kind of the same that they did from the beginning or look the way that you know them outside of the movie or something. I don't know, which again breaks immersion for me. So there was like an East Asian actor that plays one of Odysseus's crew. It is a minor role. Again, like probably the Greeks probably would have interacted with someone from East Asia. So that also kind of just felt like, all right, let's just put him in there. His right hand man, I thought did a great job in terms of like just acting and like I felt the bond between them. I felt the loyalty, but also the conflict and the times like the sadness of like having to go almost mutiny against Odysseus and like I thought he did a great job. But yeah, it's like he's very clearly Indian. So like just things like that. Elliot Page, I mean, yeah, like plays a short Greek, right? Maybe that's why they got Sinon to maybe not really do the fighting and just be the one to announce the Trojan horse, the gift, because it's like, well, if you can do that, you can be the messenger, and they did end up shooting the messenger in this case. I don't know how big Sinon's character really plays in the book. It seemed to they tried to almost I don't know, make Sinon more prevalent in this one, but overall, I think how they did it, like, Sinon's connected to the main suitor and how like Sinon ended up getting drafted instead. And then that kind of adds a bit more of like a motivation for getting revenge on Robert Pattinson's character. And so like, I think it played well enough. I'd argue actually, Elliot Page wasn't as immersion breaking as a lot of the other casting choices. There feels, of course, like there's got to be some, especially because Elliot was front and center in the trailer there. It does feel like there was a conscious culture war decision made in the hiring, but I also know Nolan hires actors he's worked with before. He's worked with Elliot Page, has worked with Robert Pattinson, has worked with Anne Hathaway, has worked with Matt Damon. Fair enough, right? When you can click with someone creatively, you want to stick with them. I get that, right? That's fair. But yeah, it still does kind of, again, like, when you see Sinon, you see Elliot Page. When you see Penelope, you see Anne Hathaway, or I do. I see Elliot Page, I see Anne Hathaway, I see Matt Damon. I didn't really see their characters, and luckily I was still kind of able to like tap into Matt Damon. It was more kind of felt like I was really rooting for Matt Damon to get home because he just looked tired and sad and really full of a lot of tough stuff to deal with. So I was like rooting for him, but yeah, I don't know. I think even just overall the casting and the acting, like they pulled it off well enough for me to care about, Robert Pattinson getting his comeuppance and the sheep herder that helps, that's loyal to Odysseus, like things work out for him and he gets revenge on the one suitor and like all the stuff, I'm like, yeah, go Telemachus when he kind of, starts kicking some butt too. And like, but yeah, it still does very much feel like that's Tom Holland, that's Anne Hathaway. So that's unfortunate. I still feel like they could have done some less well-known actors in the movie and would have played fine, but I wasn't, screaming to get my money back or anything. It would have just been nice if the Odyssey could have been that movie that united people instead of kind of just being the next thing that kind of causes division, Couldn't we have just appreciated a retelling of a story that's been, around a very long time and much loved, much appreciated, much studied, much analyzed, the modern language used, which at times that was also something that broke my immersion when he's saying like, let's go. It's like, surely you could have used a better word. It doesn't have to be old English from Chaucer, but a different phrase, like let's go. I don't know. Again, the way it was kind of framed too, it kind of, not really how it just, bringing it all. I don't know, like, maybe in that case, just don't say anything because, like, bringing vengeance, just be like, yes. I don't know. It's just, it didn't resonate with me. A fair bit of the dialogue. Now, some of the dialogue I thought was great. It was beautiful, poetic. That's the stuff I wanted more of. When Odysseus is describing the siren song and what it was doing to him, at first it was the most beautiful thing you could imagine, and then it tears your heart apart because it just shows you things you can never have, or things that now that you've experienced it, you can never have again, and that loss and that, that was beautiful. Love that stuff. Have more of that. I think you could have sprinkled more of that in instead of just a lot of like, just kind of lifeless, kind of bland dialogue, That's how I felt. I mean, there are movies that I love that I have no issues with the dialogue, and people didn't like the writing or the dialogue in that movie. And that's fine. And you disagree on it. And then you move on. When people say like, oh, that was bad writing or good writing, like that is one of the most subjective things I've found. Same thing with acting too. It's like, oh, that person's not a good actor, or that wasn't, I think where the acting was still good enough is that I was still invested. I wasn't, because that'll still break the immersion the most for me, is when I'm really like, oh, this is just a scene. You guys just memorize your lines and said action and you're just going through the motions. That really takes me out of it. And for the most part, the movie wasn't doing that. The first few scenes, kind of when Telemachus is with the sheep herder servant and they're kind of training and they're talking a bit, that kind of had a vibe for me. And I get it. A lot of times it seems like when the beginning of a show or beginning of a movie, it's like they're just getting their footing, and so things might be a little choppy. And yeah, the first few scenes very much kind of to me felt like, oh, this is the actor showed up on set, you got the lighting and everything. Like it felt a bit more transparent. Like I felt like I could see through kind of the scene a little bit and kind of could see how it was constructed, and that took me out of it. But after that, as much as I saw Matt Damon and not so much Odysseus all the time, the acting and everything, I was still believing like he was scared, he was angry, he was tired, he was, grieving, he wanted to get home. I believe that, So that's enough. That's what's needed. That's, to me, is good acting, is when you believe that person is going through what they're going through, what they say they're going through, or what they're trying to emote, what they're trying to express in their emotions and their facial expressions is what they're actually feeling. And that's good acting for me. So yeah, that's how I felt about the movie The Odyssey. Overall, I enjoyed it. But yeah, I think it could have been a lot tighter. I think there could have been a lot of things that really would have improved the experience for me, improved the movie for me. Would have made it easier for rewatchability and things, because I'm like, I liked it. Am I gonna rewatch it? I don't know. And rewatchability is important to me in terms of like how much I really enjoy a movie. So that's my review of The Odyssey. But of course, I'd love to hear your take down in the comments, and I'll see you around, I'm sure.